Welcome, everyone, to the 113 Cast Backlash Edition, the greatest podcast ever. I am your host, Colby, joined tonight by two members of our group. First, as usual, Brian. Brian, what's new with you? How are you doing?
I'm still mind blown after watching the greatest wrestling match ever, which we'll cover here at the end.
It was the greatest wrestling match ever, according to WWE, but we'll get into it. Was it really great? Was it not? Well, we'll get into it. And my other cohort tonight, joining us for the first time in a while on the podcast, Rosario, Canucks Man, is here. Canucks Man, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm alive, so I made it back.
That's good. So, so tonight was Backlash. Not a lot of hype for this, other than for, of course, the greatest wrestling match ever itself. There was a couple news stories that came out today, one of which involved Edge, and then the other one involving Chris Statlander of AEW. First one with Edge was that he reportedly got injured during his match tonight, which was taped last Sunday. Early reports are that it's probably a triceps tear, and they aren't sure how severe it is yet. If it is something that would need surgery or maybe even going to take long recovery, there's a good chance we're not going to see Edge back before the end of the year, which is very unfortunate considering, they had plans for him for SummerSlam and as well as probably Survivor Series in the end of the year. So kind of a rough start. You guys have any thoughts on Edge's injury?
After finding out the news about it, I was watching the match just to try to pinpoint when it happened. And like I said, we'll get into that a little later, but it's unfortunate that it did occur. So like you said, who knows if we're going to see him before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Hopefully, it's just a small injury that he can heal from. Maybe he can call up John Cena, get some advice on how to heal from it super fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how that goes. But, of course, the other injury I mentioned was Chris Statlander of AEW. She apparently has an torn ACL. She suffered on Dynamite this week and is going to be missing several months. She's going to need it surgically repaired. So Statlander not going to be around for the foreseeable future. Thoughts on this one, Brian?
I don't know how quickly they recover, but hopefully quickly because she's one of the best workers on the AEW women's roster. So it's kind of a huge blow that she's going to be gone for, a certain timetable that it's to be determined. But I feel like her injury, her being away from TV, not having matches, it's going to be noticeable.
Yeah, between her being hurt and Britt Baker being on the shelf currently till at least All Out, women's division's taking a bit of a hit for AEW right now. So hopefully some good news soon. But that's it as far as news. Nothing else overly important we need to cover. Let's just get into the pay-per-view itself. Now, I don't think anybody actually watched the pre-show. I had it on the background, but I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I did see at the opening match for the pre-show, it was, of course, Apollo Crews defending the U.S. title against Andrade, and Apollo did get the win in that match. Again, I didn't watch, so I don't have really anything to add. Anything either you wants to add on it?
I didn't see it either.
Okay.
I didn't see it. I was at the store.
Right. Okay. So,
but what I do want to know is now that Apollo retained, so when does Humberto get his shot?
It's probably tomorrow night on Raw.
All right.
So,
we'll just have to see.
I will say, from what I was told, Kevin Owens was on commentary during this match to quote unquote even the odds in case Angel Garza or Zelina tried to get involved. And from what I heard, he was apparently really good on commentary. I kind of want to go back and listen, but just didn't get a chance. I was busy as well during the pre-show. So that was pretty much it. They had a bunch of video packages and stuff, but we go into the main card at 7 Eastern, and I believe this was on a slight tape delay tonight. They were billing the majority of the show as live, and that's not a total fabrication. I think it was probably a few minutes behind, but it was most of it done tonight. The only match taped previously was the aforementioned Edge and Orton match. So kicking off, we had the women's triple threat tag team match for the I almost said the SmackDown tag titles, for the WWE women's tag titles, featuring the Iconics, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and Sasha and Bailey. And Amazon Alexa just went off in the background. So I got to remember, I haven't done that in a while. So we had this match, lots of back and forth. Every time it looks like one team gets an advantage and the other one comes in. Fans chanted, "This is awesome," which they did for like every match tonight, and it really got under my skin quickly.
Fans.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was more of a "this is awesome."
Any fall and pray stuff just randomly?
Not tonight. They saved that for Wednesday. So.
Okay.
So Bliss and Cross end up getting control of the match. Alexa goes up and hits Twisted Bliss onto Peyton, and just as she's about to go for the pin, Sasha runs in and steals the pin to win the match, and Sasha and Bailey retain. Not a huge surprise. I think we all kind of saw this one coming. We all said we wanted the Iconics to win, but we knew Sasha and Bailey would. So Sasha and Bailey will be heading to NXT Wednesday night to face Tegan Knox and Shotzi Blackheart. Thoughts on the opening match? Brian, I'll start with you. You said you didn't actually see any of this, did you?
I did not see it, but I do have some thoughts. I know, like you just mentioned, we, in our picks and predictions video the other day, we did say that Sasha and Bailey were going to retain, or we predicted that they were going to retain. I do know that you had mentioned that there were weeks ago on Raw, they were building a storyline where Billie Kay was going to turn on Peyton Royce. So, I don't know, maybe you said she was the one who took the pinfall?
Yes.
So who knows? Maybe they'll try to reignite that storyline, or maybe it'll lead to something. Who knows? We'll see. If so, it'll be interesting because we've seen the Iconics are great together, but I feel like they can shine on their own when they're separate. But I don't want to see that happen because they're so good as heels together to get the crowd hated. But the reason why I was saying that they might do well separate is because look at Fire and Desire. Look how that all went down. Look what it did for Sonya.
Yeah, I think Peyton would flourish on her own. I feel like Billie might die without Peyton, just because she'd be exposed. And I think having Peyton with her is and just the act itself is great. So, I mean, I don't think anybody wants them to break up. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. Rosario, did you have any thoughts you wanted to add for that match?
Not really.
Okay. So we then see Strowman showing up in this car, which somehow he's managed to get fixed in less than a week. So, yeah, that was a thing.
So what I looked at, I saw that by the Performance Center, there's a car repair shop or something like that. I was looking on Google Maps like a couple of days ago. So they probably sent it there.
Yeah, but my thought is good luck getting a car repaired anywhere right now.
Well, when you have the money, it's like, here you go. Can you fix my car?
Or Braun just carries his car in physically and says, I get these windshields fixed.
Yeah. It also makes you wonder, like, you would think that Braun would drive a bigger vehicle.
Well, yeah, he looks like the type of guy that would drive a pickup or some
He's
sort
like, it almost reminded me of The Simpsons when Nelson was laughing at that guy in the small little
the tall
guy in like the little clown car. Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I just thought of.
That's Braun. That's Braun.
It's like Becky being in the semi truck.
Well, it's not quite like that because that's the opposite. But this is more like Braun is this huge man in this tiny little car. I kind of want to. I won't be surprised if somebody makes something like that out of like a thing for Botchamania soon. Well, they'll show him getting out and have like somebody that breaks his windshield go ha ha, and then him chasing after him. So, but yeah, we get our next match: Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. We got the video package showing urine throwing and the hit and running and all the crazy stuff that led to this. Match itself went about a little over 10 minutes. Finish was strange. Jeff hits the twist of fate, goes up, hits the swanton, pins Sheamus, but Sheamus gets a foot on the rope. They brawl to the outside. Jeff tries to run the barrier and leaps off into a brogue kick. And then Sheamus throws him back in the ring and hits a second one, depending for the victory. So Sheamus goes over clean, gets his revenge for the urine throw on Friday night. Meanwhile, Jeff Hardy, who was framed for a hit and run and been called the junkie for the last month and a half, has now still not gotten anything. But that's just me venting there. Brian, your thoughts on this one?
This was a match that I got wrong on picks and predictions. I think we all chose Hardy to go over on this one, if I remember. So, because we did. We were saying like the storyline, the build up to this rivalry, like Hardy needs to win, but I guess not. That wasn't the case. Not much from that. Just the brogue kick. From certain angles, it looked pretty brutal. I'll just put it that way.
Rosario, what about you?
Yeah, there was times where this match could have ended early. I don't know, or is it that Hardy where he gave a twist of fate or something? Or I don't know. I fell asleep.
Yeah.
I think I started falling asleep during this match.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Was I think I even said it to you when we were watching this after Sheamus got the foot on the ropes. I was like, "This is going to be one of those matches that goes like a couple minutes too long,
5 minutes,
and more than enough." Or before I'd even finished, they were outside the ring fighting again, and then Sheamus hit the 2 brogue kicks. So I really
enjoyed that brogue kick outside the ring where Hardy jumped off like the barrier and
he basically died on that. But
that was the brogue kick that I was talking about, not the actual finish from the show.
Yeah.
And then Michael Cole on commentary. Oh my God, that we were so close to that. I was like, well, yeah, because he did it right in front of you guys. So.
It's like we watched the foot knock his chin back. Yeah, he did.
You don't say.
My only problem with this was, again, the fact that Sheamus won clean. Not that Sheamus in a fight wouldn't beat Jeff Hardy clean sometimes, but I feel like with the way this is built up, he should have done something cheap if he was going to win, whether it was a quick low blow or maybe a shot with something when the ref wasn't looking, just something like a heel would do to win, rather than a clean victory and having no reason for this feud to continue. So that's just me. It was really weird booking. We then see Hey Kayla backstage with Miz and Morrison. She says that if one of them pins Braun Strowman, then that person becomes champion instead of co-champions. And Miz and Morrison are furious. They weren't told about this, and now they got to change their game plan again. And then we see Otis and Mandy appear. They tease cashing in and then walk off. So that leads us to our next match for the Raw Women's title. We have Asuka defending against Nia Jax. This was a match. Nothing really too special that I have in my notes that happened. The finish saw them fighting on the outside. Asuka was so weird. I couldn't tell if Nia botched this or if Asuka didn't get a grip or if this was intentional. But Asuka goes to lock an armbar on Nia over the ropes and almost immediately drops off. Nia falls over the ropes, so then she tries the armbar again and again doesn't lock it on. And then on the floor, she tries the armbar for a third time, and again, Nia's just, she like goes to pick Asuka up but can't pick her up. And it was so weird that I legitimately couldn't tell if it was intentional or not. But essentially, all it does is them not realizing that the count is high, and Asuka notices when it gets to 9, she goes to slide in the ring, but the ref counts to 10, and we have a double count out. So looks like this feud is going to unfortunately continue. But yeah, Brian, any thoughts on this one?
Oh, just the finish itself. I'm not going to remember this match. I probably won't even remember the finish, but what I can probably tell from it is that it was definitely a way for WWE to try to protect Nia so that she wouldn't take a clean loss like that. But like you said, I'm on the same page with you. It's looking like this feud isn't over, and we're going to be getting this match again, maybe at Extreme Rules or something.
Rosario, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, Nia injured me before this match even started, so I was in some pain disbelief, and I couldn't watch the match. I was hurt.
Sorry to hear that. So then we go backstage. We see MVP on the phone calling to get 30 bottles of champagne delivered to celebrate the title change later. He also orders security. Lana walks up and says she's responsible for some of Bobby's success and wants to be at ringside with him. MVP says he did make the decision and isn't the one who should be having this talk, and says that she won't because she doesn't want to hear him tell it, and then leaves. So more tension being teased amongst that trio. We then get the video package, and it's time for the Universal title match. Miz and Morrison, hey, ho, ho, against Braun Strowman in a winner is the champion 2-on-1 handicap match. This wasn't too bad given the circumstances. Miz and Morrison did get a lot of offense in, but for the most part, it ended up turning into a bit of a squash by the end of it. Braun hits a choke slam on Miz, and then Morrison tries for a springboard. Braun knocks him out of the air and hits the running power slam to pin him for the victory. So Braun retains, and then afterwards he celebrates in the ring while the other two are still dead on the outside. So any thoughts on this match, Brian?
When the stipulation was announced by Kayla a few matches earlier backstage, my first thought was, all right, Miz or Morrison, one or the other is going to go for a pin. The other is going to break it up on their own end. Yeah, sure enough, that it happened towards the end. Miz and John Morrison could have been the champion, but no, so that didn't happen. So anybody who's been watching wrestling for so long who has seen stipulations like that knows that it's going to happen, and it did. So there's that. Now I just want to see where Braun goes next, like what his next feud will be. Because I don't see Otis cashing in on him. I feel like Otis has to cash it in on a heel or somebody else like that.
Right. Or you could always turn Braun eventually, but I guess it really depends on where things are. That whole SmackDown side is a mess right now. So, Rosario, anything you wanted to add?
Nothing I can think of.
So then we cut backstage after we see a video of AJ winning the IC title against Daniel Bryan Friday. Kayla is interviewing AJ, and he says on SmackDown he's going to hold a victory celebration, and he wants Bryan to be there. Daniel Bryan, not you, Bryan. Sorry.
Damn. Okay. Dang. I gotta refund my ticket then. I bought it right after he made that announcement.
He goes on about Bryan living in a fantasy world. That's Daniel Bryan again, not you, Bryan.
Okay. Okay.
And says he's good, but he's not phenomenal, and then he walks off. So looking like the AJ Bryan Daniel Bryan feud is going to continue, unless, Brian, you have a secret IC title match we don't know about yet.
No, who knows?
It's true. Well, if you can work it out, maybe you'll have the greatest Intercontinental title match ever.
Oh, I know we would.
Well, I mentioned to you when he was doing the interview, his side plates were not his; they were the WWE logo ones.
Yeah, he had just default side plates. Probably maybe saving that for SmackDown.
So maybe it was pre-taped, like after SmackDown the other day, or whenever they taped it.
Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe they've just decided they're not going to change the side plates. We then had the WWE title match next. It was Drew McIntyre against Bobby Lashley. MVP comes out with Lashley. And then McIntyre comes out. I can't talk all of a sudden. Before the match starts, MVP distracts Drew and Lashley attacks him, locks him in the full Nelson, takes him down. Referees have to separate him. And then they ask Drew if he's okay to compete. He says he's fine. They have the match. Lashley hits a bunch of moves and does a lot of pinfalls, but can never get more than a 1 count. Drew's gimmick where he still kicks out at 1. Keeps going on for a while. Towards the end of the match, Lana comes out to ringside. She starts arguing with MVP and then gets up on the apron to try to distract. Lashley almost runs into her, and then Drew hits the Glasgow Kiss, which knocks Lashley into Lana and sends her off onto MVP. And as they're down the outside, Lashley turns around into a Claymore, and Drew gets the pin for the victory. So Drew celebrates. MVP's angry. And then as Lashley and MVP go to leave, Lana's still sitting on the ground and is just left there by herself. So I will say after the match, there was an exclusive video online of them continuing to walk backstage as Lana tried to chase them down, but they completely ignored her. So seems like we're going to keep doing the tension there. But Brian, your thoughts on this match and the aftermath?
It was a decent match. I'm not gonna lie about that. My only gripe about it, or that I can think of off the top of my head, was after Lana took that bump on the MVP on the outside, we missed the Claymore because the camera was
that's true.
Did you guys notice that also? Yeah, we missed the Claymore. Like Kevin Dunn didn't press the button on time, so all we just saw the aftermath, right after he got kicked. So that was that. We did see it during the replays, but yeah, that was my complaint from that.
Well, yeah, the camera was focused on Lana and MVP at ringside. Mm-hmm. So, Rosario, anything you wanted to add?
Oh, at first I thought the match was not going to go on because Bobby Lashley was attacking Drew before the match, and then I thought he was going to get a quick pin. But
yeah, and it was at this point too where it was in the group chat. I was saying, all right, we haven't had any title changes yet. I was like, is this going to be the one that we get on the show? And I remember Gappy was like, don't say that, using Billy's line. So I popped for that.
Yeah, we'll say Rosario pointed this out, and it ended up being the case for all but one match. Whoever came out last won almost every single match tonight. The only one being the main event, which we'll get to. But yeah, after this, we then had the awkwardness that was the Street Profits and Viking Raiders segment.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah,
I already blocked it out of my mind. I was ready to talk about the greatest wrestling match ever.
Yeah, I can't even consider this a match. So essentially, we were told earlier in the day, Street Profits, Viking Raiders were going to be having a match on Backlash, and what we got was a camera cutting outside showing the four brawling. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's just going to be a segment to write this off so we can go into the main event. No, this wasn't like a quick 2-minute, they're going to brawl and not fight angle.
Yeah. Yeah,
This turned in-
we're the referees. Where's like, yeah, where's the security? Where's
Right.
Sanjay to go in there and break it up?
Yeah, where's Adam Pearce to run in and make a match? Like,
Yeah. No, he's on SmackDown, isn't he? Yeah.
yeah, but it's a pay-per-view, so he was probably there.
Yeah, he's probably like, no, those aren't my guys, so I'm not gonna deal with it.
So we go, we see them all fighting here, and they fight to the outside, where they end up damaging Braun Strowman's car again. And they all realize it, and they run in fear and go back inside. They continue to brawl until they come up to some golf clubs, and they start getting ready to fight. But then they the Profits have the golf clubs. They turn around, and they see Eric and Ivar. Eric has a shield and an axe. Ivar has a shield and a bowling ball. They decide to stop at this point and continue to fight like men. So they all lay their weapons down, and the Street Profits tell a joke about what has 5 fingers or something. I tuned out at this point.
They stole that line from the Chappelle show.
That was a Chappelle line.
Yeah, they stole that. They stole that from the Rick James skit. Yeah, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap.
Yeah,
they used that line twice, which bothered me.
Well, the Viking Raiders used it later in the fight too.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's what I meant by twice. It was used twice in the same quote unquote segment.
So they go to fight, and they continue fighting, and we see Ivar and Dawkins and Eric fight away. So we have Ivar and Montez Ford.
Montez, yeah.
Montez is out on the floor. Ivar picks up the bowling ball and starts having flashbacks to the bowling segment from Raw. And when we come back, he takes the ball and he does what you said was the Road Dogg spot, and what I remember was the Raven spot. They were both the same spot.
Immediately when he picked up the bowling ball, I was like, he's not gonna roll it, is he? And then they cut to Ford, who was like just sitting down with his legs spread apart. I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, this is the Road Dogg and Steve Blackman spot from like Raw in 2001, like during a hardcore match. I remember this. I remember that specifically because I remember as a kid I laughed my ass off for that.
I remember Raven taking one to the balls, and I can't remember if that was in WCW or if that was after he came to WWE and was in the hardcore division. Mm-hmm. But I remember both of them. So he bowls the ball right into Montez's little Ford, and I'm surprised we didn't get a quick cameo from Bianca getting angry, but we didn't. Actually haven't seen her in like a month and a half. I know you haven't been watching Raw, Brian, but shortly after she debuted at WrestleMania, she just stopped appearing on TV. So much for that call up.
Maybe she's pregnant.
I don't think so.
No, that's another superstar on the roster.
Yeah. So then we see Ivar, and he heads outside to find Eric. Dawkins then runs in and tackles him through a glass window, and they land on the debris. And they start having flashbacks at this point of eating turkey legs. And then Ivar says, anything you can do, we can do better. They talk about how quick everything started escalating. So they start limping over to the parking lot to fight. And people are probably wondering why I'm recapping this whole thing, but I can't do this justice without telling you every stupid little bit of this. So they go over to the parking lot, and then a bunch of motorcycles pull up. And a man gets off, and somehow Rosario recognized this guy before anybody else, and I don't know how.
I knew who it was, but I was just like, why?
So he takes his helmet off, and it's Akira Tozawa, which Rosario pointed out before he even had the helmet off. He just had the mask lifted up, and I think Rosario was like, is that Akira Tozawa? And sure enough, it was. And Tozawa says in Japanese, anything you can do, we can do better. Or I guess that's what he said. That's what the subtitle said. He said.
I'm gonna pause you real quick over there. What I know I haven't been watching Raw. The last Raw I watched was the week after the whole ramen noodle joke.
Yeah.
Like what prompted that? Why what has Akira Tozawa been doing? Was there any reasoning why, or
this was his first appearance since then?
So they just randomly were like, all right, Tozawa, put on a motorcycle helmet and then you're gonna roll up. No explanation at all.
There's no explanation at all. The only thing he's been doing is he's been in that cruiserweight title tournament with NXT. And I think he was in like one squash match on Raw, but otherwise that's been it.
Okay. I was wondering, was he like involved in some sort of angle like with the Profits and the Raiders, when they were doing all their competitions like leading up to this, or I had no idea. That's why I was confused.
It makes it even more out of left field because he has nothing to do with any of these four.
All right, well then.
So he tosses his helmet at Ivar, and the Prophets and Vikings huddle and say they're going to do this together. And suddenly a bunch of ninjas from the motorcycles show up, and they all start fighting the ninjas.
And it became Rush Hour.
It did become Rush Hour. Eventually, the Viking Raiders have their turkey legs, and the Street Profits have their red cups, and they scream they want the smoke. Tozawa calls for his ninjas, and they fight some more. Lots of, as you said, lots of Rush Hour takedowns.
Exactly, like the very end, like they did the Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker spot where like they grab each other's like hands, like they do like the high five thing, and then they do the kick, like the bro kick thing. I was watching this over at my sister and brother-in-law's house, and then my brother-in-law was like, they're doing rush hour shit, and then as soon as they did that spot, he was just like, you're kidding me. And,
well, and then they do all this, and then we see a tall ninja show up, and I kind of wanted to be like, it's the Yeti.
Yeah.
The way he just kind of like walked into the frame, but it was it's Jordan. I can't pronounce his last name. It's Omagablian, I think, or something like that.
Right.
He's a recruit from NXT who is a legit like 7'3", 7'4", tall guy. So it wasn't like a camera shot or anything. This is a legit tall dude that they used. And of course, this lost my place in my notes here. This scares off the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. Eric tries to attack, but Dawkins holds him back, and they run and climb up to the top of an 18-wheeler. Ivar, meanwhile, is too far behind because he can't catch his breath because he's had too many turkey legs. Finally, he catches up, or I guess Ford says he wouldn't be so tired if he didn't eat so many turkey legs. And then Eric says he's tired because he beat up all the ninjas. Profits take credit for it, and then they start fighting again. Dawkins and Eric go over the side, which leads Ford with Ivar and says they're supposed to be together. So Ivar shoves him off and then lands in the dumpster with Dawkins. Ivar then jumps off and lands next to them, and all four of them are in the giant garbage can, trash bags, all that stuff. This point is they're laying in the trash. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like how the semi, the WWE production truck that they jumped off of, you pointed it out in the group chat. You're just like, oh look, it still has No Way Jose on it.
It's like a giant picture of No Way Jose watching them.
Right.
So as they're all laying in the garbage, Ivar starts having flashbacks again to all the challenges they've done over the past few weeks, and all the women that the running joke, which they've done literally every single challenge, has been them telling Ivar that he's cute and then looking at Eric and saying not so much. So he did this and showed every single one. And then Jessica Carr shows up on a ladder and asks them what the hell they're doing because their match is next. And then she tells Ivar that she thinks he's cute and then looks at Eric and says not so much because we got to keep that joke running. I feel like that's like an inside joke that they've just turned into an on-screen thing. Like,
yeah, it's probably like a rib that they probably got in real life.
Yeah. And then they see something alive under the trash bags, and they start scrambling to get out. And there's some sort of like a tail that pops out. I don't know what the hell it was. And the segment ends, and we go back to ringside, and Tom says there will unfortunately be no Raw Tag Title match after what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. So that was that. So this wasn't even a match. This was a 10-minute long segment. It felt like an hour. Brian, what were your thoughts?
Just when Jessica Carr was like, all right, your guys' match is next, I was like, all right, this all makes sense why they're doing all this just to do filler time. Because now they're going to go in the ring and they're going to have the match. But then Phillips, when he said, well, we're not going to have the match, I was like, well, why did we have this whole segment then? I feel like it could have been saved for Raw. But,
yeah,
so WWE's been doing all these cinematic matches since WrestleMania now. There's been some hits and some misses. This was definitely a miss for me. You can tell though, definitely for all four of these guys, even Tozawa, Shaquille O'Neal, and everybody else involved, that they probably had a blast filming this. But it just looking online, there were mixed reactions. Some were saying that it was hilarious, it was good, it was entertaining. Some were saying that it was bad. I'm part of the latter. I'll go with that one.
I know Sean Ross was a big proponent of it and enjoyed it, but he's about the only one that I noticed that didn't like it. That did like it. I knew I was going to hate it from the beginning because WWE comedy is just not good usually. At least recently it hasn't been. And as good as Street Profits are with comedy, and as much as the Viking Raiders have shown they can be good in comedy, it just, this shouldn't have even happened. Or like you said, they should have saved it for Raw. Rosario, anything you want to add on that train wreck?
I want to know who's face and heel between these guys. Like, I feel like they're both faces.
I believe they are both faces right now. So, oh man, that's
and Tozawa was a face too. So, like I said, that just made it even more confusing. And then I don't know what Manute Bull, like what his role is going to be, but so
we'll see. I still want to know like who the ninjas were. Like, why didn't they just have the kidnappers from NXT show up? Like, Santos Escobar brings Joaquin Wilde and the other dude with him, and he's like, "We're gonna kidnap the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits, and then you don't have to sit through this."
When Tozawa took off his helmet and they showed the others just for a second, I was looking into the eyes of some of the motorcyclists. I think one of them might have been Tony Nese, but I can't 100% confirm it. So
I know one of the jokes going around Twitter was Malcolm Bivens was one, but I'm pretty sure that's not accurate. I think Malcolm Bivens just wants credit for being a ninja.
Yeah, it just sounds like something he would tweet. So he was in the audience. I did see him there, so I did pop for that.
But that leads us to our main event, the greatest wrestling match ever.
All right, here we go. This is why we're here.
The reason we're here, Edge versus Randy Orton.
This is why we're here, and this is why babies and kids, the new generation, they're gonna grow up and say, "Mom, Dad, I want to become a professional wrestler."
And this match was we'll get into it. The start of it, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. I felt it was very much a pandering, and I think I probably would have liked it a little bit more had I not just sat through what I had. But we start off with Orton and Edge coming out, and then the lights go out and a spotlight hits, and we see the MSG microphone in the ring, and we get a voiceover of Howard Finkel introducing both guys. And suddenly the crowd has gotten louder. They've managed I guess during the Street Profits segment, they funneled in about 7,500 more people into the Performance Center.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also get horrible camera cuts throughout the match. I'll just say it now. In the first minute of the match, they go to lock up, and you see a camera like between them looking up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they were doing like a football huddle.
Yeah, and there was another spot later in the match where Orton goes for the draping DDT, and the camera's under it, and you just see Edge making this weird face, like, ugh. And it's like, why? Why are we looking at this? So, and they even said right before the match, I think it was Tom said something like, we are going to be using new cameras angles for this match, so look to that. But
it's like, well, where was the camera?
Right.
Yeah,
it was
obviously,
like, did they?
Yeah.
I feel like they would tell them, like, as they're in the move or about to do a move, hold position, and then they send the cameraman in.
Pause, and like, just send the cameraman like to awkwardly like lay down on his back with the camera facing up in between them.
Because
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I hated that Skycam.
The Skycam was bad, but it wasn't as bad as the camera like in between them and from the ground.
Yeah, it didn't work for okay, Colby, I don't know if you remember this. The NBA did this like 15, 16 years ago where they had a camera on the floor like right underneath the basket.
Yeah.
So that's what it immediately reminded me of. I was like, and that didn't work for the NBA at all. So I was like, why are they doing this here? So I feel like if they were going to do different camera angles, like since they're already copying like a lot of what AEW is doing, they should have just had like cameras on the turnbuckles and just like shot from different angles there. But I'm not in charge. That's just something that I would have done.
Well, they had these too. They had them on the ring post. They had cameras there.
Right.
Well, those they've had though in the past, but those camera angles from below reminded me of Brad Maddox. So, moving on. I had to get one in.
So did he?
Yeah, but you do. So they have a pretty good match. Lots of back and forth. Orton works him over early in the match, then Edge gets the advantage. And then we get to the latter half of the match, and it turns into just a flurry of who can hit what move. And rather than hitting like their own finishers or anything, they start hitting other people's finishers. So, for instance, Edge hits an unprettier on Orton. Orton ends up hitting an angle slam on Edge. Then Orton grabs Edge and hits him with a pedigree. And I told Rosario that this should have been the finish of the match.
Yeah, you told us that too in the group chat.
Yeah,
I thought the rock bottom was after the pedigree, right?
It was.
Yes, yeah. So the next was Edge hit a rock bottom on Orton, which I'm still wondering if that's where he injured his triceps. But I mentioned on Twitter that it was a lot more safe than when The Rock injured himself doing it, because they were kind of huddled together still, whereas The Rock like did full spread eagle to deliver it. But we had a lot of "This is awesome" chants, which were again piped in from the editing.
Yeah. And there might have been some Austin, and maybe some fallen praise in there.
Edge then tries to lock in a sharpshooter, but Orton breaks out.
Edge is Canadian.
Yeah, Edge is Canadian. He was also doing a lot of cross faces too, which Orton kept breaking out of. Because why? Edge is Canadian. So waiting on you to finish my sentence.
Well, I'm looking at Rosario. Rosario's no-selling all these Canadian jokes right now.
So then Edge takes Orton out the knees, only gets a 2 count. Orton hits an uppercut, and then the draping DDT, which is the one where we get the camera angle from below. Then Edge gets hit with the RKO out of nowhere, but kicks out at 2. Orton is pissed, starts yelling at the referee, and then Orton goes to charge Edge, but Edge cuts him off and hits a spear. Again, only a 2 count. Hits another and still only a 2 count, so Edge is angry at this point. They then go to the corner to the middle turnbuckle. Orton catches Edge midair with an RKO again. And again, Edge kicks out at 2. Apparently, they felt that this is like, well, this works in NXT, so we'll do it here. Let's hit 50 finishers before somebody gets beat. Orton then gets in Edge's face and whispers in his ear, "I'm going to fucking kill you, you motherfucker." Which I thought was pretty funny because you could still kind of pick it up on the audio, despite the fact they had a week to edit it out. Edge then grabs Orton and tries to lock in a standing submission, kind of like a sleeper. But Orton hits a low blow and ends up hitting a punt kick, which he hasn't done in a while.
Wasn't the punt banned?
Yeah, it was banned. So Orton does hit the punt and pins him. After the match, Orton's slow to get up while Edge is still down. Then Orton gets down into Edge's face again and says, "It's time for you to go home, Adam. Be with your family and tell him Uncle Randy said hi." And he gets back to his feet and walks out. We see Medical come out, try to get Edge onto a gurney, but he refuses to help as he looks down and disappointed, and show goes off the air, and that's that. So Orton getting the win, kind of a heel way too with the low blow and then the punt kick. But ultimately, that's that. Your thoughts, Brian, on the greatest wrestling match ever?
So I already pointed out some of the stuff like while you were going through some of the moves and the spots itself, and then I also mentioned this in the group chat, and it's, if you actually watch the wrestling match itself, it was actually a very good wrestling match. I'm not just saying that because, it's billed as the greatest ever, but I felt like it was very good. But the stuff that I had to complain about was just, it was over the top with all the, the audio, the pipe in audio, the crowd noises, and then like the camera angles. What I did appreciate was how this match most of it took place in the ring. I think, did they even go onto the outside? They did a couple times, right?
They did, but it was very brief.
Yeah, they didn't spend a lot of time at ringside. A lot of the action took place in the ring, and they went about 44 minutes, you said, on TV?
Yeah, it was 44 minutes and 43 seconds was the
time. And then I was also saying that this should have been the match that they should have had at WrestleMania instead of the one where like they were just brawling all around the
match at WrestleMania went almost exactly the same, and it was like night and day with these two matches.
That's true, yeah. But what I felt like this should have been the match at WrestleMania. I felt like Edge's first match since coming back should have been a traditional wrestling match like what he had here. And then the other thing too I was saying was, I think like I'll probably most likely go back and rewatch this match, but I'm gonna rewatch it with the volume down or on mute just so that I can appreciate the spots and just the match itself, because it was very technical in the very beginning. They did a lot of that, a lot of reversals, a lot of chain moves, and then I pinpointed all the shine spots, the hope spots, the cutoff, the heat, everything. It was a match that I did appreciate in the end, but just the audio, the piping crowd noises, the camera angles, it was too much for me.
Yeah, that was the big letdown of it for me, but otherwise the match itself was great. I wouldn't call it the greatest wrestling match ever.
No, it's not the greatest wrestling match ever, but it's probably one of the best that I've seen recently. Oh,
it's definitely
Daniel Bryan AJ. I need to go back and rewatch that. I heard that was great, but as far as I've seen from WWE, I should say it was good.
The only thing that killed Daniel Bryan and AJ for me was the commercial breaks. Just because
the commercial breaks.
Yeah. If having that match straight through it would have been a lot better, but I feel like this is probably one of the best, if not the best, matches WWE's had in the quarantine era.
Mhm.
If you take out all the gaga that they added with the crowd and the new camera angles and stuff, it definitely it's
Could
definitely
have been
up
the
there.
greatest wrestling match ever.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been that, but
Yeah, and then also, one more thing. I do appreciate how it was Edge and Orton. Like, it was two veteran guys who have been in the WWE for so long. Well, Edge, on and off, but like I said, veteran guys, and they could have had younger guys like the newer talent put on a great match like this. But I just like how it was these two. I thought it was fitting. I remember, everybody was shitting on this match, like, oh, why are they building it as the greatest? We can see why they did, because like just the edits were just over the top and unnecessary. But I'm just focusing on the match itself, like the match quality, and I thought it was great.
yeah. Rosario, anything you want to add about it?
Oh, just the annoying crowds. Like, do you really need to add that?
Yes.
It sounds like I think you forgot to mention, like, on this match, back to the first match, where the person's wearing a Bailey shirt.
Yeah, I did forget to mention that. Apparently, the shirts that these people are wearing in the crowd, they're just given at random. At least that's my thought. That, or they pick out their shirts and then they're coached on how to react later. So in the first match, after Bailey and Sasha won, you look behind and one of the recruits, female, I don't even know who it was wearing a Bailey is my role model shirt and was booing Bailey and Sasha for winning. So, yeah. And that's not the first time. We had them doing the same thing with the Iconics the other night, where after the Iconics beat up somebody, I forget who it was, they're outside and you see someone in an Iconic shirt booing them. So, yeah. So that's that. Any final thoughts on the overall show, Brian?
That's like I said, or like I say with most of the pay-per-view reviews that we do, it's not going to be a pay-per-view that I'm going to remember overall. Like, we were talking about how, like, Money in the Bank, the last one we did, I'm not going to remember it for, like, the matches. I'll just remember it for the Money in the Bank match itself. And then, like, In Your House, I'll remember it for, like, the set and, like, the gimmick, like, for it. Like, and then, yeah, same thing with this one. I'm not going to remember this pay-per-view in a few months. Just the build-up for it, the greatest wrestling match ever. That's what I'll remember it for.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that, because I feel like as much as we made fun of it and as stupid as it was, I feel like without that build, this would have been a mostly forgettable show. And that because it was such a great match, that's going to be the one thing that people remember for a while. So, Rosario, what about you? Do you have any final thoughts you wanted to add?
None. I'll probably
Right.
just be complaining, going on rants.
Let's hear it.
Sweet. Yeah. All right. Well, that about does it then. Now, let me just pull up. I had here, and of course, I lost my spot. There we go. So on Twitter, I had a poll for how people felt about the overall show. Thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs down. Brian, I'll go with you first. What would you give it? Thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down?
I'll say thumbs in the middle.
Rosario, what about you?
Yeah, same with Brian. I'd be in the middle.
Yeah, I would probably tend to agree. There wasn't much on this show that was good, but other than the Street Profits and Bike Careers thing, there wasn't anything that just pissed me off to the point I didn't want to watch it.
If it wasn't putting me to sleep, then I'll probably give it a better.
Yeah. There was just the main event was great. That's probably what saved the show. Otherwise, it probably would be more thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
But the main event pulled my rating up.
I agree. Same with me.
As far as the poll that I have, we're at 47% thumbs up, 29% thumbs in the middle, 12% thumbs down, and then the other 12% are folks who did not watch the event. So seems like the internet at least is somewhat favorable on it. Let me pull up some of the comments that we got. So some of the comments we got here about the show, I'm not going to read all these. It was great match. Damn good match until the end. Great match. So, and a lot of people are referring to the Edge Orton match because what we used for the picture, but did think it was the best match of the night. Edge Randy was one of the best matches. I don't get why Vince hates us. Great match. So actually freaking amazing. Brilliant match, but not the greatest ever. It was not the greatest match ever, but it had sleeper moments. Match between Edge and Randy was match of the night.
Not only was it match of the night, but it was the greatest wrestling match ever.
Definitely a match of the year candidate. Great pay-per-view. A few botched moves in some matches, but it happens now and again. My career's a Street Profits segment was the only downside. The Edge Orton match, I loved it. It's way better than I thought WWE would put on. They both sold everything, had great counters, and the announce team was on fire. I thought the match was great. The camera play was cool. Okay, I don't agree with the latter part of that, but
Dang, how many burner accounts do you have, Rosario?
Too many.
It was just okay, maybe above average, solid 6 out of 10 maybe. Felt boring, but not boring enough to turn it. Just meh. It was the greatest match for me because Randy Orton kicked Edge's ass. Pay-per-view altogether was trash. The punt kick never touched Edge.
Well, I forgot to mention that he slapped his leg when he was doing the punch.
And that's, yeah. Well, I made that joke even before. I said when they started hitting all the finishers, I was like, I can't wait to see Orton have to slap his leg when he does a Sweet Chin music. But we never got that. We just got the punt.
I was expecting a Stone Cold Stunner and like an attitude adjustment.
Yeah, it was. I'm surprised we didn't get more finishers like that. But yeah, that I guess that pretty much does it. I guess might as well just get in our plugs and get out of here. Ryan, I'll start with you.
No, before I get into my plugs, I am looking forward to New Japan World Cup. Tuesday morning. So, that'll be good. So, if in case you want to get Backlash off the back of your mind, go and watch that. But as far as plugs, nothing's changed for me. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me at the Brian Season. You can find me on Instagram, Netflix and Brian. We are on YouTube. Where you can watch these streams, these podcasts now, and our picks and predictions video. So I know I haven't been updating it as I should be. So thanks to Colby for having my back on that. So youtube.com / we are 113.
All right. And Rosario, what about you? You want to plug anything?
You can find me on Twitter at DeakyPD40, but I don't talk much wrestling. I post food and hockey.
So read out your Pokemon Go friend code.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to turn it on.
Okay.
All right.
No.
Eventually we'll get that out. But so you can find me on Twitter at thecolbybirch. Find me on, that's pretty much it. Find weare113.com. You can find us on, as Brian said, YouTube, as well as Facebook, weare113, Instagram and Twitter, 1132sweet. And you can also buy 113 merchandise at the store. It's belowthecollar.com / weare113. Hoping to get some new stuff up fairly soon. We got still a few more shirts before I can do that, but be looking into that here in the next month or so. But yeah, that pretty much does it for us. So for Brian and for Canucks Man and for myself, Colby, this has been the greatest podcast ever. the 113 Cast Backlash review. Have a good whatever.